enjoy paying for school children to be taught woke curricula like drag queen story hour, comprehensive sex education, diversity, equity, inclusion? Me neither. And if you're one of the unfortunate individuals who's being forced to pay for this sort of crap, this is something that you are going to want to tune into. I am joined by Eloise Smith, who works over at the Freedom Foundation, and Eloise specializes in teaching teachers how to stop paying their union dues, which, among other things, and I'm sure we'll get into this, go directly toward teaching things like woke curricula. So, Eloise, first off, thank you for taking the time to come on to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on, Dylan. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, so this is, I know a colleague of yours who broached the subject to me before, and it had never even occurred to me that this was an issue, which is why I think it's so important to get this out. But can you go over, first and foremost, what are these teachers' unions, and what are they doing with this money that they're collecting from all the teachers around the country, right?
Yeah, well, I can speak on this at a personal level because I used to be a teacher in Colorado. As a teacher in Colorado, my first teaching job, I made $28,000, which is no money, as we all know. And then on top of that, if I was to actually join the union, at the time, Colorado was a right to work state, so I didn't have to join the union. It was my choice. But if I had chosen to, I would have had dues deducted at $1,100. That's a lot of money when I'm already making no money.
Right.
And the things that the teachers union say that they're doing for teachers, like they're not arguing for higher salaries in the same way that you could argue on a public in a free market system, and they're not representing teachers across the spectrum. We can really tell this because at the last conference that the NEA throws, that's the National Education Association, that's the largest teachers union in the United States. AFT is the other one, American Federation for Teachers, and that's of course run by our favorite friend, Randi Weingarten. Between these two organizations, they collect billions of dollars from teachers every single year. And that money, $1 for every dollar that they spend on teachers, they spend $2 on politics. And oftentimes that stuff that they're spending on political dollars on is going towards Planned Parenthood, it's going towards BLM, things that are not pro-education, they're not pro-children, they're not pro-America. And they're getting people like Brandon Johnson elected as mayor in Chicago. So now they have the whole of Chicago in their back pocket, and they're not fighting for the Chicago students. I mean, we've seen those numbers came out really recently that like 15% of students in Chicago are proficient in math when they graduate. Like, that's horrifying. That's the kind of stuff that the teachers union should be fighting for. Instead, they're getting communists elected as mayor and beyond. They gave more money to Joe Biden than they gave to any other candidate ever in history. I mean, it's just wild what they're spending teachers' money on.
Right. And then, I mean, spending it on a political purpose isn't necessarily bad as long as that political purpose lined up with teachers and students to some extent, right? As opposed to, okay, let's just get our political candidate elected that we like, and then it turns around, okay, what does this political candidate endorse? Oh, it's drag queen story hour and comprehensive sex education and woke stuff.
Yeah, you talk to teachers and they're not political. Often teachers are very apolitical people. They're there to do a job. They want to teach students math. They want to teach students how to read and write. And instead they're being told that they have to teach math is anti-racist, or how to promote really creepy things like transgenderism and sexually explicit materials within their classroom. It has nothing to do with education. And of course, that's all being led by the teachers unions.
Right. So tell us about, so they collect all this money. You were in Colorado at the, when you were a teacher, and then you didn't have to give them the money. But there are some states where they, in quotes, do have to get the money until a Supreme Court case happened. Can you give a little detail about that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this actually affects all public workers, not just teachers. So anybody that works for the city, basically anyone that works for the county, police officers, firefighters, they all had to pay into their union without even wanting to pay into the union. And again, a lot of that money is going towards political things that police officers don't stand for, like defunding the police, which is just crazy. So very, very ironic. So a lot of states around the United States had these automatic dues deductions when you accepted one of these jobs. You didn't get to sign in or sign out, opt out of being in the union. You just automatically were.
There was no form that said opt me in or opt me out or anything like that.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is a great example of this. Pennsylvania is one of those states that if you became a teacher there, you automatically were in the union and you didn't have a choice. And again, that's $1,100 of money that the teachers really need. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's another vacation, that's helping paying off student loans, all kinds of stuff. So you had to pay your union dues until 2018, when the Janus Supreme Court case ended up in front of the Supreme Court. And that made it so basically it said that all speech that's happening through the union is political, and you can't be coerced into having political speech. Your money cannot be used for political speech that you didn't agree to or sign up for. And so that meant that unions could no longer make their members pay dues. So that's wonderful. But then the teachers unions found a loophole around that. And we call these opt-out windows. So every year they just allow 2 to 3 weeks for a teacher to opt out of the union. If you try and opt out before then, sorry, you're still in the union, you're still paying the dues. And maybe they'll let you out when they remember, if they remember, when that opt-out window comes around.
That's clever.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it just blows my mind how people don't have shame, that these people don't have any shame, where it's like, okay, we were just told we can't force them to do it, so let's just come up with this thing where, we'll make it so that they can only opt out in a 2 to 3 week window, making it very, 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 very obvious that this is 100% political and that we're, basically putting thumb screws on them. To the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law, to the letter of the law, and we don't feel any shame about that. Just keep giving us the money.
Well, and why would they feel shame? The only way that unions make money is taking it from teachers, from taking it from police officers and firefighters. They don't have another way to make money, and so when that option was taken away, when people no longer had to pay dues, of course they were going to freak out. Their cash cow was being taken from them.
The vested interest is starving. So tell us more about this 2 to 3 week window and what you do at the Freedom Foundation, what the Freedom Foundation does specifically, because I had no idea about this. And now, granted, I'm not a teacher and I've never been in a union, let alone a public sector union. But tell me about the efforts to teach the teachers this, and what's the like when you teach a teacher this, you can opt out, what do they usually do?
Yeah, so we've made it really easy at the Freedom Foundation for everybody to opt out. If they are sick of paying union dues, or if they're just curious about their options out there, they can go to optouttoday.com, and it literally is 3 clicks to figure out how to opt out of your union. So you click on your state, you click on the union that you're in, and then you just sign the form, and we will send it in for you. And we'll make sure that they take it. If we know their opt-out windows, which we do a lot of research on this across the country, so we know a lot of these opt-out windows, when they fall for teachers, it's normally in August, right before school starts. They get you when you're distracted. So we'll keep your opt-out form until that opt-out window happens, and then we'll mail them in. So we'll do all of the heavy lifting for you. All you have to do is go to optouttoday.com.
And is there any charge for something like this?
No, we're just happy to help. Yeah, we obviously the unions are the biggest funders of the left, and this is the best way that we can see how to take out the left.
So in your experience, or the experience of the other people working at the Freedom Foundation that you've spoken with, how do teachers usually respond? Like if you let a teacher know you don't have to pay this, is it more, oh my God, get me out of here right now, or is it, I'll think about this, or no, I love paying my union dues? How do people fall on the spectrum?
It kind of depends on where you're at in the country. The Rust Belt, especially, it's strong union ties. I mean, public sector and private sector unions out in Pittsburgh, all of that. It's almost in a culture to be part of the union there. And it's like a proud union family. But when we tell teachers that they don't have to pay all of this money and that there are alternative organizations out there like Christian Educators or Association of American Educators that do the same thing as the union for literally a tenth of the cost. I think actually a little bit more. Christian Educators is like $192 a year to represent. You get the same. The big thing with the unions, they tell teachers, you can't leave the union because then you won't have liability insurance. And if a student sues you or if a parent tries to sue you for something that happened in the classroom, we won't be able to represent you.
Is this is this CEAI.org? No, they moved. ChristianEducators.org. Is that
yes.
it? Okay.
Yes, that's it. Yep.
I'm saving all these websites so I can put them in the notes.
Awesome. Yeah. And David does amazing work out of Christian Educators. We're really excited about what they're doing. And then same with Colin at Association of American Educators, and that's AAE.com or .org.
AAE.org or .com. I'll look it up after the show.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something very interesting there, which is insurance.
Mm-hmm.
This was brought to me by another organization, or I was made aware of this by another organization, because particularly since what was about 2020, when the whole parents or domestic terrorists showing up to the school board thing, really started happening, and there was like this big effort to, I don't know how big the effort actually was, but it was flashed around a lot. Like, we're going to go after those teachers' bonds. And, we need to get to the school board members to have them change this. And you get a school board member who's for it, and at the last second they change their mind. And it turns out that, what we see, like, okay, here's the person we elected. We want them to do what we say, because that's what we elected them for. That's our, like, the voters' simple understanding of it. But on the backside of it is like, hey, there's insurance here. There's policy here, and there's advocacy here that comes from this organization. If you disconnect from that organization, it's all gone, and you're left on a desert island by yourself.
That's exactly right. It's scare tactics. It's 100% scare tactics. We like to call the teachers' unions at the Freedom Foundation really the modern day mafia. Yeah. For all the anti-union or anti-bullying campaigns that they run, they really are the biggest bullies. That's the biggest fear that teachers have when they opt out of the union, is they're going to be left out to dry. Well, the reality is the union's insurance policy that you get when you pay your $1,100, $1,200 a year in dues money is actually in the union's name. It's not in your name. It's in the union's name. And so they get to choose if they want to use it on you or not. Okay,
well, slow down. That's a really important detail. So, okay, you're a teacher. I'm a student. Mm-hmm. I claim you did something terrible to me. My parents sue. That goes to the union, and then there's some committee or something that decides, okay, Eloise, do we like her or not?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Is this a teacher we want to invest in? We saw this in California this last year. A teacher, Jessica Talipa, I can't say her last name. She very famously was fired in Southern California for deciding to go against the state policy, this district's policy of transing students without parental knowledge. Mm-hmm. She said she wasn't going to lie to the teachers or to the parents about it. And so she was honest, and the school fired her. Well, the union didn't stand up for her because they didn't like that case. Yes. Decided not to take it. And that's exactly what the unions will do. On top of that, the union insurance policy, their legal fees or whatever that they're willing to cover only goes up to $1 million. Meanwhile, if you go with AAE or Christian Educators or one of these other groups, these alternative groups that, again, you're only paying maybe $200 for the entire year versus $1,200 for with union dues, they have the policy in your name, and it's $2 million of insurance. So the liability insurance from these other groups makes way more sense for teachers, and it's just cheaper throughout the entire year.
Yeah, well, and then, I mean, $1 million sounds like a lot until there's a court case.
Right, exactly.
$1 million can be eaten up pretty fast, right?
Very quickly.
I think I didn't realize until you just told me right now that there is an alternative insurance for teachers. So
Yeah, that's
we've
exactly right.
got Christian educators, and the other one was AAE. Is that what I wrote
Yes.
down here?
Yep.
AAE.org. And what's AAE stand for again?
Association of American Educators.
Association of American Educators. That's big. That is very, very big. And it also didn't occur to me. I just assumed, like, if you become a teacher at a school and you get sued personally, I just figured for things that you did at school, right? I figured that like it was the school's job to fight for you.
That's what happens with police officers, right? They have that immunity. You think it would be the same with teachers, but it's not. They're definitely left out to dry a lot of the time.
That's wild. And they're maybe left out to dry depending on the whim of the union is what I'm.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's totally wild. So tell me about, like, what's the goal of the what are your goals and what are the goals of the foundation in terms of, like, how many teachers do we need to disconnect from the matrix?
Yeah.
Before I know all of them, but, like, is there a tipping point where suddenly they don't have enough oxygen to get Joe Biden elected next time? Or I already forgot the mayor of Chicago. I already forgot his name.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great question. We are just slowly chipping away at this. What's good news is if one teacher opts out, that's $1,200 for every single year that they would be a teacher. So if it's a 30-year career, that's a lot of money that's costing the unions. That adds up. It snowballs really quickly. And what we've found is teachers often opt out more when fellow teachers tell them about it. So we have an 80% success rate when another teacher tells a teacher, hey, you should opt out of the union, and this is why. So that's really good news. Yeah. And in the last 2 years, we've seen 140,000 teachers leave the teachers unions, both AFT and NEA.
Hold on. I'm going to do some math. I'm doing some math. So you said 140,000 teachers times $1,100 a year?
Yep.
So that's $154 million a year.
Yeah, every single year.
That's significant. I mean, I know they're working at billions, but that's
and it's a snowball effect. So both last year and the year before, 2021 and 2022, both of those unions, AFT and NEA, saw a 3% membership drop each year. So people are starting to wake up to what the unions are doing. I mean, COVID really highlighted that. And of course, just last week, I think it was, or maybe 2 weeks ago, Randy Weingarten went and testified before the Senate and just lied over and over again, totally perjured himself.
Who's Randy Weingarten?
She's the head of the American Federation for Teachers, which is the second biggest teachers union. And she's the lady that is 100% behind school closures during COVID. She lied before the Senate and said that she wasn't, but we have all of those receipts. She definitely did. And she actually worked arm in arm with the CDC saying, these are our list of demands if we're going to open schools again. And it was stuff that, again, had nothing to do with education. It was passing the Green New Deal. It was defunding the police. You saw that lovely, fiery, peaceful summer, whatever that summer of protests was.
Oh, yeah. I was next to the autonomous zone.
There you go.
I'm close to Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. So you felt that really personally, I'm sure. All of that was actually inspired by Randy and company. So that's really wonderful. She again was demanding things that had nothing to do with education. She was trying to get these radical political agendas across passed everywhere in the United States. And she was holding our children hostage to do it.
Yeah. I'm looking at her picture now. My screen share is kind of messed up right now, or else I'd share it. She's got the face for everything that you just described. Sorry.
Yeah, she's horrifying.
Yeah, so I mean, what a perfect example of, you know, here's this person who's obviously has no interest in, like, what the institution is supposed to be. Like, here's the educational institution, which is supposed to educate, that's in the name, the children, and talk about, like, how do I use that as a tool to get this other thing that I want? And like the collateral damage that happens as a result of that, not interested. That doesn't matter. Don't care. Right?
Mike Pompeo just actually came out and said that she is the #1 enemy of America. Not China, not Russia, Randy Weingarten.
That's an intense statement. I mean, I think there's a few people you could put at the top of the list. For him to say that specifically is pretty intense. So And I'm a solutions oriented guy where it's like, okay, here's this problem. If we're going to focus on Randy Weingarten, for example, and the push that she has and the power that she has, you know, there's the, in quotes, traditional route. We could say, okay, well, let's get what's her organization? She's American Federation of Teachers. So I'm sure there's some arcane way of how do you become the head of this organization, right? That you and I aren't necessarily going to be able to affect that machination. But we can stop the food source.
That's right.
Right? Right? We can stop the food source. Right. So that's, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like you've nailed it. Is there any more details that you've got that are worth sharing on? Yeah.
I do have a couple more solutions that the Freedom Foundation has been working on. So not only do we want to defund and defang these unions, taking away all of their money means that they can't affect elections and hold our children hostage during pandemics or crises anymore. But also, we want to take a page out of their book. They clearly have been successful. The left, we know, is very successful with their marketing schemes and whatnot. Every year, the National Education Association, which is the NEA, that's the biggest teachers union in the United States, they hold a teachers conference every July that is wildly successful. Before COVID, they had about 25,000 teachers attending in person. After COVID, their numbers have dropped to about 6,000, which is still so many teachers, and another 18,000 teachers attend online. So again, they've got a huge, wide reach, and it's really, really effective what they're doing. At the last teachers conference that they did last year in 2022, they had 110 resolutions that they wanted to pass. Only 4 of them had to do anything with education. I'll say that again. 110 resolutions. A lot of those had to do with DEI, SEL, like transgender stuff. Absolutely nothing to do with education. Only 4 of them had to do with education. That's insane. All of these teachers showing up at an education conference and they're not talking about education at all. That's crazy. So what we want to do at the Freedom Foundation is take a page out of their book. They clearly, these conferences are clearly successful if they're getting the draw that they are. And so we want to do the same thing. We've got a conference in Denver this summer for all public school teachers. We're accepting applications right now for about 250 teachers will be invited. And everything will be paid for these teachers to come.
Where do they go to put in their application?
freedomfoundation.com is where they can apply.
So wait, if I go, I'm going to head over to freedomfoundation.com here. And again, I'm sorry, my screen share is not doing what I want it to do.
I've seen this. I know what the website looks like.
It's more sorry to the people watching.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, here we go. If I'm on the Freedom Foundation website, oh, it says Teacher Freedom Summit right on the front with a button you can click. Okay, right yeah, very good.
My face as well.
Very good.
So they can apply.
So did I hear 250 can go and it's going to be everything paid for?
Everything is paid for these teachers. We really want to thank them for not giving up on public education. 90% of our school children in the United States attend a public school, and that's not changing based on school choice. Maybe 1 to 3% more will go to like a charter school or a private school when school choice is passed. But that means still 88% of our school children in those states go to a public school. That means we can't give up on them. We have to keep fighting for our public schools. We can't walk away and cede this fight to the left. So we want to thank these public school teachers who are on the front lines every single day, fighting for our students, fighting for our families, fighting for the future of America. And we're going to do that by hosting a really awesome conference in Denver, Colorado.
You should just call it a vacation. It's an all paid for vacation to Denver, Colorado, right?
It is in a lot of ways. I mean, they're going to first of all network with like-minded teachers. I know from my own experience teaching, and then my best friend is a teacher in Pennsylvania. Conservative teachers especially, feel so isolated. They are really oftentimes quite alone in the school. And so for them to be able to come together and meet a bunch of other teachers that feel the exact same way from around the country, how awesome is that? And then on top of that, they're going to have really amazing speakers come in and talk about different aspects of their rights inside and outside of the classroom. So that's ranging from their Janus rights, their First Amendment rights with the union, if they can sue the union, how to get out of the union, that sort of thing.
What are Janus rights?
Janus rights. Janus is that Supreme Court case.
Oh, right.
Yep. Yeah, so it's just their First Amendment rights, basically, and if they have to join the union. And then we're also going to have a really in-depth panel with policymakers and lawyers from around the country that talking about how they can stand up to woke curriculum without getting in trouble. I know that's a huge fear for a lot of teachers.
I want to emphasize that. So basically, this is an all paid for vacation. You get to meet people that are like-minded, and you because likely you feel isolated if you think this way inside the schools. And there are going to be professionals there that can specifically tell you, for your state, this is what you can remove of the woke curricula based on the law.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's going to be, we're so excited to equip these teachers with this knowledge, and then they can go back to their campuses and spread the good word. It starts small. It starts with just a handful of people standing up and saying, hey, you know what? I don't think that we should be transing the kids without their parents' knowledge. That just doesn't feel right to me.
I don't think they should be doing it all, but yes.
Yeah.
One step at a time. Yeah.
One step at a time for sure. But certainly, like, the school has no business touching any of that. And same with like CRT, the NEA at that same conference that they throw every single year in 2021 passed a resolution that they were going to get the 1619 project in every single school in America. Well, they've done an amazing job of that in just 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know why this has become such an argument as to if America is just systemically racist or not, but it has. So someone's got to start to stand up, and I think we've found some really amazing teachers to do that.
That's excellent. Is there anything else you want to tell me about the event or about the Freedom Foundation in general?
I'll just say that we're still accepting applications. We've got just not too many seats left, actually. So definitely apply within the next 2 weeks, because that probably is going to close. And then some of our speakers that are coming, Corey DeAngelis is a big name in school choice. A lot of public school teachers are terrified of school choice, but again, the free market allows for really good things to happen. And so we shouldn't be afraid of school choice. So he'll be talking about that. And then the other big speaker that we're really excited to have is Manny Diaz, Commissioner of Education, Manny Diaz from Florida. He's the guy that's behind all of those really wonderful bills that have happened even just today. The Teacher Paycheck Protection Act passed today in Florida. The Don't Say Gay bill, which isn't even what that is. It's just protecting students from being sex educated before the age of 9.
Right, which is not enough, but okay. Yes,
it's a place to start, but my gosh, like, that people were upset about that is super gross. Anyway, he's wonderful, and he's going to be our headline speaker. Should DeSantis win in 2024, he will probably be the next Secretary of Education for the United States. So it's kind of neat that we get to meet him before he becomes a bigwig.
Excellent. Before we end, I want to shout out these websites that you said, because this is some really useful information. So there's optouttoday.com. That's if, due to the complicated bureaucracy that's been set up to try to opt out of these public union dues, if you go to optouttoday.com, you can, and you're a teacher, you want to get out, you put in your information, and the Freedom Foundation will do the heavy lifting for you for getting you out of that union. That's the first website.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Yep.
We've got ChristianEducators.org and the Association of American Educators, which is AAE.org, which this is one thing we talked about. I don't know if they do more than this, but they sell insurance. They have insurance available for liability insurance for teachers. If you're not in a union and you go, oh my God, where's my liability insurance? They have it here, and it's significantly cheaper than what the union will charge you.
That's exactly right.
That's awesome. Well, Eloise, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there, do you have anywhere where people can follow you or get a hold of you or find your material?
Unfortunately, I am not on social media, but you can follow the Teacher Freedom Summit. Thank you. Which I run. So if anyone wants to get in touch with me, you can follow the Teacher Freedom Summit, which is on Twitter at freedom for the letter 4 teachers, TEACHRS, freedom for teachers on Twitter, and then freedom for teachers on Instagram. Teachers is spelled correctly on Instagram now.
Yeah, I just gotta. I made a joke with Eloise before I had this call. I'm like, I hope the freedom for teachers on Twitter isn't teaching English.
Which is really funny because I used to be an English teacher.
Right. You said that the freedom for teachers that included that last E was already taken, so you had to truncate.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Eloise, thanks again for coming on, and I'm super excited about this. Is it the summit? Call it freedom.
Yeah, it's a summit.
The summit.
Summit.
The summit in Colorado, and I'll definitely like to hear the results of it, and I appreciate you coming on. And
So much, Dylan. This was wonderful.
Yeah, this has been Dylan Moore with Irida TV, which you can check out at irida.tv. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.